Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all 3 past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Hey everyone, David Aragona here, taking a look at one of the stakes events on Saturday at Santa Anita. Race 8 is the Grade 3 Providencia, going the 1.125 distance for the 3-year-old fillies on the turf. And as we throw up the field of 8 runners for this race, haven't yet seen the morning line, but I do anticipate we're going to have a heavy favorite in this spot in the number 3, Madoro. She is undefeated in 3 starts so far, all victories on the turf. She's already won a couple of stakes races, and last time she won a stakes race that looked a little tougher than this one coming in. So you could argue she's actually getting minor class relief against this field. She is stretching out to 1.125 miles for the first time, but based on the way she's finished, you don't expect the distance to be a major hurdle for her. And all of her rivals in this race, they all have some different things to prove, and we'll go through it in a little bit. But before we do that, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Providencia. Madoro is a horse that comes from off the pace, but she's not some deep closer. She can attain position in mid-pack, and I think you saw in her most recent start, the China Doll, she was able to stay a little bit more engaged through the middle portions of that race. So I agree with this position on the pace projector where she's shown somewhere in mid-pack. The number 4, Lamborghini, she is going to be the pace setter in all likelihood. That's just the way she runs. She wants to be a front runner, and we'll see how far she can take them on the lead. 1.125 miles does feel like it could be a minor question for that rival. Well, let's go through the field in post position order, beginning with the number 1, Shiloh's Mistress. And she's one of the more intriguing runners in this race because she's never tried the turf before. She's made 3 starts on the dirt, hasn't won any of them because her lone victory came on the synthetic course at Turfway Park back in January when she was a visually impressive winner by 3.5 lengths. Didn't get much of a speed figure that day, only an 85 Timeform US speed figure. But when I watched the replay of that race, she seemed to really stride over the Tapeta course very well, won that race pretty comfortably in the end, just going away from an overmatched field in the late stages. And since then, we saw her show some real quality going back to the dirt in that Santa Isabel. That was a very fast race run in the middle of March, won by Kinza, who looked like one of the most talented 3-year-old fillies at that point in time. And Shiloh's Mistress held her own. She was stalking that fast early pace. You see those red color coded pace figures, and not like she totally threw in the towel, finishing 5th, only beaten about 5 lengths by Where's My Ring, who came back to win the Gazelle so impressively in her subsequent start and seems like one of the players heading on towards the Kentucky Oaks. The big question for Shiloh's Mistress is the turf. There's not a ton of pedigree here. Her dam, Oz, produced multiple winners. The best of those was stakes winner Odd Chocolate, who was more of a dirt horse overall. Vino Rosso hasn't exactly shown himself to be a prolific turf sire at this point in time, but she does give some confidence that maybe turf could be in her wheelhouse, given how well she handled synthetic over the winter. So we'll see what we get from Shiloh's Mistress going out for Michael McCarthy, who does have very good stats going from dirt to turf. The number 2 is Circle of Trust. We'll take a look at her most recent start when she broke her maiden. Her second time crossing the wire first, that she actually won a maiden race at Santa Anita back in October, was disqualified and placed last that day. Officially got the job done last time in March, going this 1.125 miles distance. And you had to like what a sophomore on this occasion. She handled the 9 furlongs, beat a solid maiden field here, stepped up to earn a 100 Timeform US speed figure, which is the best that we've seen from her so far. Did get a perfect trip in doing so, just sat in the pocket in the early stages, moved 3 wide approaching the quarter pole, and was able to mow down the leaders on that occasion. But she does project to get another pretty good trip here. She drew a good post position towards the inside and seems like one of the rivals you could consider if you're looking to take a shot against the favorite. She would just have to take yet another step forward off that maiden win if she is to upset the filly that we're going to take a look at next here, the number 3 Madoro. We'll check out the replay of her most recent start when she was the winner of the China Doll. Now, this filly had shown potential as a 2-year-old, winning both starts in pretty close finishes at Del Mar and Santa Anita. Was a narrow winner of the Blue Northern to close out her 2-year-old campaign, and you had to like the progression that she showed in this race, not only from the standpoint of her winning by a more decisive margin, going away at the end to get this victory by 2.25 lengths, but also, like I said, towards the top of this preview, she was more engaged in the early stages, was able to attain better position in mid-pack, was traveling much more keenly, not like she was rank in the early stages, but just seemed like she was traveling more in the bridle for Antonio Fresu through the first half of the race, and in that replay, fight, you could see the way she just lowered herself to kick away from that field late. She just seems like she's really putting it all together in just the third start of her career, now moving on to her fourth attempt, going for her third stakes victory in a row in this Providencia. Based on the way she runs and pedigree, you don't expect the 9 furlongs to be a major hurdle for her, and she got this 109 Timeform US speed figure last time that just towers over her competition in here, especially when you isolate her rivals' turf numbers. Nobody else has come close to that kind of speed figure. So she just seems like she's got this field over a barrel on Saturday. She's going to be pretty tough to beat, Madoro. The number 4 is Lamborghini. She is coming off a second place finish in an optional claiming race. We're going to actually go 2 back at her past performances to take a look at her last victory when she was a narrow winner against California breds. Now, she was facing males on this day and was pretty game to get the job done, just barely holding on, going the 1 mile distance. She definitely prefers when she gets this kind of trip, comfortable up front, able to set her own fractions, and then trying to hold on to the late stages. Tried to do the same thing last time, but was unable to hold off C Dancer, an open company rival who just seems like she was a little bit better than her on that occasion. Lamborghini did earn a career best 101 Timeform US speed figure for that performance, but she was getting leg weary in the late stages, going the 1 mile distance. Doesn't really inspire confidence in her getting better going a mile and an eighth. So we'll see if she's able to take that next step forward, but she does seem like the likely pace setter in this Providencia. The number 5 is Brand New Dream, and she sort of commences a parade of long shots that will round out the second half of this field and the outside portion of the starting gate. She's just one who's going to have to get a lot faster. She was no match for Lamborghini when she faced off against her last time, was just towards the back of the pack every step of the way, broke her maiden against a weaker company over the Tapeta course at Golden Gate last winter, and she's just going to have to find some improvement if she's going to be competitive against Lamborghini, and especially against a horse like Madoro, who just seems classier than the rivals that she's been facing. The number 6 is Sakura Blossom. She'll be switching back to turf to try that surface for just the third time in her career. All 3 of her victories have come on the dirt, so not really sure that she's more of a turf horse. She did run her best speed figure on the turf, I will note, 3 back when she was competing against optional claiming starter allowance company. Not the best field that day. You'll note that the winner, Highlands, if you're looking at the Timeform US charts, in her next start, she actually faced off against Madoro in that Blue Norther and finished 7th to that foe. So not the strongest form lines from that November allowance race that Sakura Blossom contested. Since then, she's won 2 in a row, won an optional claimer, and then contested the Arizona Oaks. Although that was a stakes race, not the strongest spot from a class standpoint. She's just going to have to get a lot better and do so over a surface that might not be her preference. The number 7 is English Danger. She's another who broke her maiden in a maiden claiming race like Sakura Blossom did. She earned that victory going the same mile and an eighth distance, so at least she handles the distance, but only got an 88 Timeform US speed figure. Didn't show any signs of improvement when she stepped up against winners last time in a weaker starter allowance race. So she is yet another one who's going to have to run a lot better than she ever has before to get in the same league as a horse like Madoro. And then rounding out the field is the number 8, Pink Whitney. She has sort of been the rival, the nemesis of Sakura Blossom recently, finishing second to that one in 2 starts, both on the dirt in that optional claimer starter allowance at Santa Anita, and then most recently when she lost to Sakura Blossom by a nose in that aforementioned Arizona Oaks. But like I said, that not the strongest spot. Pink Whitney has won on the turf before, actually broke her maiden in a maiden claiming race on the turf back in January at Santa Anita, but again, not the strongest speed figures, not the strongest form and company line. So she is yet another that's going to have to run a lot better than she ever has before if she's going to upset Madoro. And you could sense a theme in this preview. It just feels like Madoro is the strongest coming in from a form standpoint. She's got the speed figures, and watching her run, she gives confidence that a mile and an eighth is not going to be a problem for her. So I personally am not trying to beat this favorite. It's just not the most appealing wagering race in this Providencia, probably having to swallow a short price on this number 3. I did consider Shiloh's Mistress. I think she's the most interesting alternative, trying the turf for the first time, just given Michael McCarthy's stats and the fact that she did run so well on the synthetic. But she's just going to have to run the best race of her life, getting on a new surface for the first time. And Madoro just seems like she really has the advantage over a rival like that. So I'm going to chalk it out in this Grade 3 Providencia on Saturday at Santa Anita. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.